Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Doman Learning monthly question and answer session. This is our monthly Q&A here at Doman Learning, where parents join from around the world on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook and ask their questions. They could be questions about early childhood education, about the Doman Method teaching programs, questions about parenting, whatever your questions are. Go ahead and start typing them into the comments box, whatever social media platform you're on. Go ahead and comment, send your questions in, and I will answer them in order. This is a 30-minute Q&A, so we keep it quick and tight. And I always begin with the questions from parents already in the Doman Learning Parents Facebook group. To be in the Doman Learning Parents Facebook group, parents need to have enrolled for one of Doman Learning's courses. That could be our reading course, our math course, our gift of knowledge course. I take their questions first, and then if we've got time left at the end, I take questions from the general audience. So let me get started with those questions. Now, a couple of quick announcements before I jump into the questions. So first of all 6 months of our reading materials now have images in the Reading Before School course, right? So if you go to Doman Learning and you see our materials, right, in that Reading Before School course, they now have images along with the reading words. And we have seen that these pictures greatly increase the interest, enthusiasm, and retention of the children with the reading materials. So the kids are more interested, they love it more, and they're learning to read faster. And that's what really matters. So that is now available for anyone who enrolls in the Reading Before School course. If you've already paid for the course, you get these materials for free. We're giving them as a gift. If you haven't enrolled in the course yet, it's now available for you. All right, the second quick announcement that we're making is that there is going to be a price increase in 2025 to continue to improve the quality of Doman Learning's courses, to maintain our Facebook group and all the services we're providing families. And also we want to add courses as well. So I'm just letting you know that. So you can still get the current price up until the end of the year, up until December 31st. And you can also use Spencer 10 if you want for a limited period of time to get 10% off of any course or bundle on the domanlearning.com website. So that is the promo code. All right, everyone, let me jump into questions. I got a lot of questions, probably the most questions I've ever gotten coming into this webinar. So I will try to go through these quickly, and hopefully we have a little bit of time at the end to take questions from the public. So the first one comes from Esther. Esther says that she's just started to print the materials and start our program after watching many videos on YouTube, especially on Doman Learning's channel. And she said, here are her questions. So she said she wants to begin our English reading, Spanish reading, and math programs with her 5-month-old. She says, I have learned that each day there should be a maximum of 5 sets of words and show each one 3 times in a day for 5 days. Okay, and you're absolutely right, Esther? So for example, if you've got your set of vehicles, that's one category. If you have your set of animals, right, that would be your second category. So a maximum of 5 categories in a day is absolutely right. And I'm glad that you said maximum, because that is the maximum number that you want to show in a given day. Esther asks, but can I combine math with reading during the day? I want to teach the math program. The answer is absolutely. You can definitely do reading and math in the same day. And many, many parents do. I would say most parents do. I always tell parents, start one program, make sure it's going well before you layer in a second one. So I would recommend start with reading, make sure you can do it, and then add in math. Just so for yourself, you can make sure you can organize all the different activities in the same day. Esther's saying, how can I teach 2 languages at the same time? Shall I show the picture of something and its English word and then the Spanish word? The answer to that is no, Esther. You should separate the languages into different sessions, right? So for example, if I've got English, right, I would say elephant and elephant. I wouldn't then say elefante in the same set. It would get kind of confusing for the child if we were just going in and out of different languages, right? When we speak, many of us speak multiple languages, but we don't combine the languages usually in the same sentence when speaking. There are a few exceptions to that, but I don't think that's so important. I think what is important is, no, you would do your reading sessions in English at one time and then Spanish in a separate session, right? So in one session, you would show the picture of the elephant and show the word elephant. And then in another session, you would show the picture of red and you'd say rojo for Spanish, and then you would show the word rojo. So you would separate the two languages into different sessions. I hope that is helpful, Esther. All right, next I've got a question from Rebecca. Rebecca says that she started the math program with her 17-month-old, and a couple of weeks after, she started with our picture and reading program. Rebecca says there's no contest. He won't even look at the numbers, but he loves the reading program. Reading is going very well. He always asks for more right away. If I don't show him at least 3 sets right before the other, he becomes inconsolable. So we now do 3 sets at a time, and that seems to work well. Now, Rebecca's saying for the numbers, even 1 second per number doesn't work. He turns away. So what I've done now is that I add 2 number cards into each set of reading cards in random places. He tolerates that well, and this way he looks at the number cards. Is this a good strategy? Do you have any comments or questions? So I think, Rebecca, when you say, and this is a matter of language, when you say number cards, do you mean the quantity cards? Because we call these quantity cards, right? This is 2. Or are you saying the numerical symbols, like this is 7? I'm going to guess, since you just started, you're talking about the quantity cards. My advice is, if he's very disinterested in that part of the program, and he's refusing to look at the quantity cards at all. Once in a while, there is a child who will do this. It might be a matter of, sometimes for children, it's a matter of their own personality. Sometimes they are children who have already started to recognize symbols, and so they take less interest in the quantities. So what I would probably recommend to you, Rebecca, is actually just skip forward in the math program and start showing the numerical symbols and see if he's more interested with the symbols. Because very often, interestingly, when children start to show they're not interested in the quantities, they're the kind of child who is interested in the symbols. So give that a try and let me know how that goes. And, and then you can kind of pick up the program where that is. Now, you might be thinking, but Spencer, I really want him to learn quantity recognition skills. Well, as you know, in the Math Before School course, our math course on domanlearning.com, we have 2 modules. We have modules for children under 2.5 years of age, and then we have special modules for children over 2.5. We can come back and teach him quantities in the way that we teach in that module for children over 2.5 years of age. So we'll still come back and teach him quantities, but if he's not interested and engaged, we always want a child to be interested and joyful. That's how kids learn. So let's try out the symbols with him and see how he responds. All right. I've got another question here. Anna says, hi, Spencer. What are your thoughts on baby sign language? And would you use it with the program? Would it be too distracting to make the sign along with saying the word while doing our Doman reading cards? For reference, our baby is 5 months old, and we've only been doing a few basic signs with her so far. So, Anna, about sign language, well, obviously, I think sign language is absolutely crucial for people who might be deaf. So I think obviously it's very important, and there are positive aspects that I could see to teaching a baby sign language. One of the reasons, interestingly, is that when we do certain motions, it actually activates certain language areas of the brain. So, for example, if I do this to you, the same area of my brain that would be activated when I say the word hello is activated even when I do the nonverbal motion for that, if that makes sense. So, in other words, nonverbal physical communication also activates the speech areas of our brain. But Anna, to answer your question, I would not do it at the same time as the pictures and reading words, right? I would not, for example, show the picture of the lion and then the word lion and then sign lion. First of all, I just don't think that that is going to be efficient. I would recommend, if you're going to do sign language, you could absolutely in separate sessions show pictures and then show the sign for that same word. So you teach it in a similar way to reading, but I would do it in separate sessions. Okay, let's see. Another question here from Rebecca. Rebecca says, I think he really likes the reading program because of the images. We are about to start the second month of materials with couplets without the pictures. Any tips for keeping his interest if there are no images? So yeah, the answer to that, Rebecca, is I would show when you begin the couplets, I would show the couplets first and then show the pictures and reading words after. It's kind of like, when you're eating, you eat your meal and then you get your dessert at the end. If he loves the pictures, if that's his favorite thing, that at the end of the session. So you'd show couplets, right? And then right afterwards, you can do the pictures and words. It'll just keep him more interested and engaged during the couplets part of the program. All right. Another question from Rebecca. Rebecca says he does not like the short sessions. He keeps asking for more and more, and he has a tantrum if I stop showing after one set. After I've shown 3 or so sets, I manage to distract him with something else. Sometimes for his favorite sets, he will strongly request to see them several times in a row. How do I deal with this? He is 18 months old. Yeah. So, Rebecca, to answer your question, it's perfectly fine if he wants to see another set to do it. I think the way you're doing it is perfect. Keep it at 3 sets and then distract him and move on. Okay. Because what we don't want to do is show him 10 sets back to back, and then he gets annoyed with how long the sessions are and he starts to turn away from the program. We always want to stop before he wants to stop. So do what you're doing right now. I think you're handling it perfectly. Okay, I have some questions from Kos now. Kos says, can I show more than 2 homemade books per week? If I show a homemade book myself, do I need to present the words in the book beforehand and then show the book? Or can I start directly with the new homemade book? So first of all, Kos, can you show more than 2 homemade books a week? Absolutely. Yeah, I recommend 2 books a week because for many parents, that's kind of the limit of their material preparation. But if you can do more than that, then absolutely go ahead. Do you need to present the words beforehand before starting the new homemade book? Ideally, yes. Ideally, you want to show the single words first and then you show the homemade book because we want the child to see the words that will appear in the book. I have one exception for this, Kos. And sometimes I'll talk to a parent and they'll say, Spencer, I haven't done any, Doman books in the last month. And I'll say, why not? And they're like, well, there are so many new words. I can't get around to showing all the new words in the books. And so I have to delay showing any of the homemade books for a month. And I say at that point, okay, now we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot because we're refusing to show a book without the child having seen all the words in advance. And now the child isn't seeing any books. And that's not in the best interest of the child. So I'll usually say to parents, do your best to show words in advance, but don't hold back the child seeing books just because they haven't seen every single word in that book. I hope that makes sense because the biggest priority in the end is we want the child to see the Doman books. Okay, another question came in. We are trying to teach our baby traffic signs using the Doman cards. By the way, for everyone who doesn't know what Doman cards are, we have a course called the Gift of Knowledge course where we talk about how to use images to teach a child new information about the world. So this parent is using Doman cards to teach traffic signs. But as the parent says, she doesn't like them. What would be the best strategy in this case? So listen, if this child is 18 months old, If a child is not interested in a category, don't force it, put it away, bring it back a few months later. Because right now, if your child is 18 months old, maybe your child isn't interested in the traffic signs because your child doesn't have anything to relate them to yet, right? Maybe the child doesn't really understand that traffic signs are to guide drivers and maybe it's not interesting. Or it could be a personality thing. Some children just are interested in certain things and not other things. But usually, if you wait a few months and you bring them back at that point, maybe the child's comprehension has increased and they're ready for that new set. And now they're like, oh, yeah, I see those traffic signs on the streets all the time now. Now I'm interested. So it's probably just a matter of the time, not the subject. Next question. Let's assume we have 20 Doman cards featuring different dog breeds. Can we show 5 cards, retire them, then bring in 5 new cards, and repeat this process until all 20 cards have been shown? Oh, absolutely, Cos. And in fact, that would be my usual way of doing it. If I have 20 cards with different dog breeds on it, I'm not going to show all 20 cards at the same time. I'd show 5 dog breeds, retire that set, and then add a new one in its place. So I would do it exactly the way that you are mentioning it here. The reason for that is it's kind of it can be boring for a child if you're showing a bunch of sets in the same day of the same subject category. Imagine like, here, look at these 5 dog breeds, and you show 5 cards with different dog breeds. And then you say, look at 5 more dog breeds. At a certain point, it can feel like overkill for the child. So better to do one at a time. All right, another question here. There is advice that with an older child, we should keep sessions very brief, maybe like 1 to 2 words per session. Doesn't mean, and by the way, I would only give that advice, Cos, if a child is not interested in 5 cards. I usually teach 5 cards in a session. So I would only say 1 to 2 words if a child is not interested in the 5 cards. So the follow-up here is, does it mean that finally it will take more months to finish the program, or does it mean that so to answer your question, yes, you might have to slow down the progression of the program if you're unable to show the same volume of materials in a day. But that's okay. Sometimes there are children who are more than happy. We got that earlier question from the mom who said their child is happy to sit and get 3 categories of Doman cards back to back. Some children aren't like that, and they're only happy to see 1 category or a few cards. So absolutely, you're going to move more slowly with those children to fit their interest, and that's okay. Because in the end, it's not so much about, it's like Glenn Doman always said, the magic isn't in the cards, it's in the child. And so we really need to make sure that we're doing sessions in a way where the child is enthusiastic and interested. And if that's the case, then we'll win. All right. Can I read information from the back of the Doman card and then show the front of the Doman card? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can and you should. And in the Gift of Knowledge course, I teach 2 different things. I teach, first of all, about showing the images of the Doman cards and giving the name. So showing the picture of the African elephant, for example, and saying, this is the African elephant. But then later on in the Gift of Knowledge course, I talk about how to teach the facts. And you might need to go back and watch those classes, right? Where we give information on. So we go back to the African elephant and we give specific facts about it. But yeah, absolutely, we show the picture and read the facts. I hope I answered that question. If a baby runs into a room, should I read the Doman book to her or postpone reading until she has more concentration? If a child is very distracted, that's usually not the best time for a teaching session. So, I usually like to make sure that a child is calm, that there aren't other distractions before I get started with a session. Again, it depends on the child's personality. With some kids, you pull out the cards and the child is ready and transfixed. But sometimes they're interested in other things, and you have to let them complete that before you start a session. All right, I see that we have other questions coming in. Anna says, thank you. Thanks, Anna. Absolutely, my pleasure. All right, I've got a question here from Jojo. Jojo says, hi, team. My question is about teaching during the holidays. We are about to leave for a 10-day trip. Oh, that sounds like fun. And wanted to ask if I should take my cards and books with me, or should I take the pause and resume once we return? Thank you. All right, so Jojo, the first thing, I will give you an answer to this question, but my first answer would be actually that there's no right answer. Every family is different. And for some families, they might say, yeah, let's bring the materials with us. It's going so well. My child loves it. I want to bring something to entertain them. And other parents might say, you know what, we just need a break right now. We need to escape, have some time together as a family where we don't have a checklist of things to get done. And those would be two perfectly good answers for two different families. Now, if you're asking me for my thoughts, I would probably bring the Doman books. And the reason why is, especially if you're going on a trip where they're going to be a long car ride or you're getting on a flight, the books can actually come in handy. I mean, they're a good way of entertaining a young child. When my mother traveled with us, she used to bring materials with her everywhere we went. And on flights, she would read Doman books to us. And if we were bored, she'd pull out cards and show them to us. But keep in mind, for her, it was really a lifestyle choice. It wasn't necessarily doing the program. It's not necessarily, okay, I'm checking off 3 times in a day and I got my checklist and I'm doing everything perfectly. It was more like, I want to bring this along because my child's going to need some stimulation on this trip. And this is one good thing for us to do, which is educational. So it's completely up to you. But I would at very least bring books along to have something handy to keep a child entertained. I'd actually say that one of the biggest mistakes parents make with trips is not bringing enough materials along, not just Doman materials, but enough stimulating things along for the child. I see it frequently in my office where I'm seeing a family and they haven't brought anything for the kid. And then they're surprised when the kid starts to get annoyed and bored and create problems. But, yeah, I think it's helpful. Jojo is saying, that's exactly my thought process for the long car ride. I figured it would be a great way to entertain. Additionally, once we arrive at the hotel, showing them there as well for entertainment. Yeah, great. And sometimes kids too, when they have a little bit of a semblance of routine, that can be good. Adults, we tend to love randomness, right? We like the idea of like, I'm going to have a day which is completely unstructured and I'm going to have nothing on my schedule and I'm just going to veg out. And by the way, even for most adults, we do that for 2 hours and then we feel like we've got to do something, But for children, having a day where there's only randomness, where they have no idea what to expect, is often not a good thing. And that's why a lot of parents actually see more temper tantrums on vacations. And there can be a lot of challenges around that because the child wants some structure. So sometimes bringing certain things along that the child is used to from their daily routine to bring a sense of structure can be very, very helpful. Hope that helps. All right. I've got a question here from Sandra. Sandra says, hi, my son in reading, he loves the homemade books, but struggles with commercial books, like books from the library. Any suggestions? Okay, well, I think Sandra, honestly, there are a lot of possible reasons here why your child may not like commercial books. I'm not sure if it's because there's a lot of text on a page or the text is very small or there are pictures and text and the child is distracted by the pictures. I'm not sure exactly why he's struggling with the store books, but I would just, if he likes the Doman homemade books, I would just do those books. You've got In the reading before school materials, you've got 24 books, okay? In the Doman Books course, which is like the more advanced course on Doman learning, there are 48 additional books. So if you do the math, that's 72 books that you have there at your disposal. And if your child enjoys those most, I would just stick to those for now. It's probably a print size issue. That would be my guess. Hope that helps. All right, I've got a question here from Kalori. I hope I'm saying your name. And the question is, what various categories of cards do you have? Great question. Well, we actually have it. I don't really have enough time to answer that question because we have in the reading before school course, there are actually 900 different single words in those materials. And I guess that means there are, if my math is correct, something like, well, I don't want to give a wrong. I think it's 180 categories of different words, each category with 5 words in it. So 180 different categories, you can imagine. You've got everything from animals to foods to different occupations to flowers to dogs to different monuments around the world. I mean, we really cover, names of countries. So we cover many, many different subjects, 180 different categories. So you can imagine. So yeah, check out the reading before school course. And I put up earlier in the presentation, if you missed it, you can always use the code Spencer10 at domanlearning.com to buy any course or bundle at domanlearning.com. All right, I've got a question here from Dr. Mommy. I like that Instagram name. And Dr. Mommy is asking, thanks for doing this. Any tip on being consistent? Okay, so I like your question because you already understand the key, which is consistency. So any tip? Well, first of all, whenever you want to do anything consistently, it doesn't matter what it is in your life, you want to start at a level that you are comfortable with, that you're pretty confident that you can do, and then build up in what is called a gradient. So let me give an example. Let's say you take the reading before school course. In the reading before school course, I teach that you can do up to 5 categories of words in a day. Okay. And when I say categories, I mean, things like, okay, you've got a category of animals, you've got a category of different vehicles, okay, up to 5. But let's say you look at that and you go, I feel I can only do 1 category in a day. Okay. Because you think you can do that consistently. Because we teach every category should be shown 3 times in a day. So maybe you say, Spencer, 1 category 3 times in a day, that's what I'm confident I could do. I'd say, great, start with that. And maybe you would start that for a few weeks and you'd realize, wow, this is going so well. My child's enjoying it. It's not difficult for me to get this done. I feel confident I could do 2 categories now. And then you increase. So you're increasing according to a gradient that you're comfortable with. So my tips for consistency: start easy enough that you're confident with it. Make sure you can do that consistently before you increase the gradient. And then just increase from there until you reach a limit where you're like, I'm good now. I don't need to get any more intense with this. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, I've got another question here. This is an interesting one. Apart from flashcards, do you have other right brain activities like telepathy and mandala? The answer is no. No. We do have other programs besides flashcards, but we don't do telepathy and mandala. And I've done videos in the past about my problem with the term right brain education. Right brain education is not a term that we use as part of the Doman method. And let me explain to you why. The most fundamental Doman Method program is reading, teaching a child to read. We read predominantly with the left hemisphere of the brain. So when someone says, and I hear this all the time, other people who copy the Doman Method say the Doman Method is right brain education. It's not right brain education. And in fact, in my opinion, people who say, this is only a right brain activity or this is only a left brain activity, don't have a full understanding of how the brain works. For example, if I show you this word truck, you might read this with the left hemisphere of the brain, right? The left side of the brain will look at this word and recognize it using the visual word form area. But if I say to you, read this word out loud, and you say the word truck, right? You might be using the other hemisphere, right? You might, in doing different activities, neurological activities, we use different hemispheres of the brain, and very often the two hemispheres are working together. So first of all, I always tell people, we, the people who create and teach the Doman Method, we don't call this right brain education. If anyone ever says that the Doman Method is right brain education, they were never trained by us, because they're teaching something different. That's all I can say. Telepathy and mandala, I don't know much about it. It sounds interesting, but no. We teach early skills like reading, math, writing, encyclopedic knowledge, early physical development, like getting a child's crawling, creeping, walking, running, and we're very much a brain development focused approach. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Next question. The next question is, for the transition from homemade books to store-bought books, what is your advice? My son loves homemade books, but struggles with the store-bought books. Oh, Sandra, I think I answered that question already. Maybe you missed my answer. But in terms of transitioning from homemade books, usually I just recommend slowly reducing the print size, increasing the number of lines per page, and then working toward the size in homemade books, right? So here you have a page from a homemade book, 2 lines. Generally, we start to add more lines and we make the print size smaller and smaller. If you check out the Doman Books course, every month of materials, the print size gets smaller and there are more lines per page. And that's how we work a child toward commercial books. All right. I have some other questions that were submitted in advance. One question, here's a question from Koss. Why do screens destroy a baby's brain? What is behind it? Is it because of one-way communication? The baby can consume information but can't interact with it, or is there anything else? Well, I think, Koss, we still don't fully understand the extent of the impact on different technology on babies' brains. And so if a parent said to me, my first thought would be, if they say, Spencer, why should we not allow our young child to be on a tablet device for hours and hours a day? My primary answer is a conservative answer, which is we don't know the effects of something on the brain. It'd be kind of like if I said to you, this bottle of water has some heavy metal in it. We don't know the effect of this heavy metal on your child's brain. We don't have enough experience with it. Do you want to give this water to your child? You'd probably say, I don't think so. Thank you for offering it. But I think with screens, because they've become so ubiquitous in our culture, we just hand them to kids without thinking about it. Now, what are the big concerns about screens in babies? Well, number one, babies have thinner skulls than adults. And so that means that electromagnetic frequencies can go through the skull more easily of babies than adults. So there's less protection of the brain. The second thing is that babies' brains are more absorbent. Literally, they absorb things more easily than adult brains. So if I'm on a 5G device, which is emitting a very strong electromagnetic frequency, the frequencies coming from that device are going to penetrate the child's skull easier than mine. And because the brain is more absorbent, it's going to conduct those frequencies more than an adult brain. And by the way, this has been well known for many years. That's why if I am exposed to lead poisoning and a 6-month-old baby is exposed to lead poisoning, the baby is going to be much more affected than me because their brain will absorb the heavy metal more than mine. And now, let's talk for a second. Why is the baby's brain more absorbent than the adult brain? Well, because the baby's brain is designed to take in information at an incredible rate. That's why we teach babies. They absorb information faster than adults. That's why they learn languages faster than adults. But unfortunately, that comes with a cost, and that is they are more susceptible to environmental toxins and other dangers than adults are. So I am very concerned about the effects of screens on children, but most of all, I'm most concerned about devices that are internet connecting and internet connecting or 5G devices, because they emit the strongest electromagnetic frequencies. I'm less concerned about a television sitting across a room because it's further away and it's not emitting the same amount of electromagnetic frequency as a phone is right in front of the child's face. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts. There are many other possible concerns of screens. One is that, and this has been demonstrated with research with babies, babies don't learn as quickly through screens as they do face-to-face with adults. It's proven through research. They did some amazing research, I think at Stanford University, where they took babies and they taught the baby, these were American babies, but they taught them Chinese. And one group of babies were put in a room with a Chinese teacher who spoke to them in Chinese face to face. The second group of babies saw the same Chinese teacher. They were taught the same information, but on a screen. Same person, same information, but on a screen. They learned Chinese slower than the children who got it one-on-one. And that's because babies are primed to learn from adults, right? It's what children want more than anything else, to be face-to-face with adults. It's how they learn. And so, yeah, if you put them on a two-dimensional screen where they don't have a real human interacting with them, they're just not going to learn as quickly as they do with a real person sitting across from them. Hopefully that helps. All right, I don't see any other questions. I've got one last question here. I'll give you all another minute or two to submit any other questions if you want me to get to them. Why does the physical program help children with brain injury? Why is it called the #1 solution to fix the problem? Is it because of the extra oxygen that baby gets during exercises? Well, I think to answer this question, I'm not sure if I completely agree with that point, that the physical development is the #1 solution to fix the problem. I'm interested in where you read that. I think that it's a essential component, but with brain injured children, we do physical development, cognitive development, speech development. We do oxygenation. So we do many different things. So physical development is an important part of that. And for some children, it may be the most important, especially if they have limited mobility. But I wouldn't say it's the #1 solution. I think it really depends on the child and their specific needs. But definitely, to what you say, mobility, when we engage in intense physical exercise, it increases oxygen delivery to the brain. Oxygen is the food of the brain. It helps our brain function better. And that is really helpful for learning ability, focus, concentration, right? There's a reason why schools that have time for children to run around and have recess and play sports, those children tend to score higher on exams than schools that don't have it. Even schools that have more class time but don't give physical opportunities to children have lower test scores. And it's because the biochemical effects, the physiological effects from physical exercise are very good for learning. And it's an essential part of child development. I hope that's helpful. All right, everyone. I've gotten to all the questions here. Thanks so much for joining the Doman Learning Q&A this month. We're going to have another one next month. If you haven't checked it out, go to our website, domanlearning.com. Check out our reading course, our math course, our gift of knowledge course. And as I said, you can always use the code Spencer10 on any course or materials at domanlearning.com. Have a great rest of your day, and everyone have a wonderful holiday season. Enjoy time with your families. You all deserve it, and I hope it's a wonderful and restorative time at the end of the year. All right, and I'll see you all in the new year. Bye-bye.